Hello everyone, and welcome to part 2 of the Swan in the Dark Forest in the portrait orientation. This will be our dry brush stage. If you missed part 1, I have a link down below. Feel free to check that out and feel free to follow along. So I'm going to just jump into it. This is burnt sienna and ultramarine. I'm going to create a new layer of trees. These ones will be closer and they'll stand out more comparatively against the ones in the background. So we painted wet and wet, and the whole purpose of that was to build up a soft scene. Then this will be to pop over that and create depth and interest. Bringing those reflections down. I'll even bring some branches from off the side. I don't know how this one will come out. I don't know if this will be the final painting that I do of this motif. I can't say that until the end of the video or later on, but I'm very happy so far with that initial wet and wet. The raw sienna just really glows with that initial wash. All the mixtures of grays that we put over it. There are spots where I'm not too pleased with the ultramarine that popped through, but I always do find that ultramarine doesn't mix the best for me, or I don't take the time to truly mix the ultramarine up, but it does add unique areas of interest, and ultramarine does have such beautiful granulating effects. I like to use the number 4 rigger here just because of the quantity of pigment that it can carry compared to the number 1. The only area where it kind of lacks is whenever we have to get really nice pointy pieces, but that's just a practice in having a light hand. Let's ground these in place, and the light's coming from back here, so bring back the shadows radiating out from that point. Then the hake brush with this mix. Just getting it dark, getting some Payne's gray. The brush is pretty dry, and I honestly really don't want much water at all on the brush, because I want to lay down areas of pigment. Now, I always wind up mentioning, especially when I go extreme in this stage, how me and Joe Menza have talked about an issue that takes place with heavy pigment called bronzing. It's whenever it starts to get like a leather sheen to it. And some might find it desirable, some might not. Actually, I need to strike that conversation up with Joe again, because he was talking about potential solutions for it, and I believe he found some. But something else must have happened. We must have just been busy and just hadn't had a chance to talk about it. Note to self. Bug Joe Menza. I'm bringing in the dark sides here. If this were to go underneath the mat, these edges would be pretty tight, so I really don't want any white to pop through. And having a little bit of the illusion of foliage coming in from the side would help out. Horizontal stroke just to give that flat surface of the water. Grab the number 1 rigger. Add branches. I think that's Hammy reaching underneath the door. I feel so bad, but I mentioned in the last video, I built a UV light box to expose cyanotypes, and I tried to cover the inside so that it didn't really let any light leak out, but I'm also concerned about the cats just coming up and looking, even if it's a little bit coming out. And he said, no, don't worry. All right, let me go get Hammy to mellow out. I'll be right back. I explained to the cats that I am painting, and they said, we want to play. Next time they're going to have to come in for the painting. Let me know down below in the comments how your animals react to you painting. I'm really enjoying the way this is building up, and just enjoying the calligraphy brush strokes for all these branches. There's just so much that'd be going on in this scene. This is an imaginary scene, but just let those spots take place. Just all the wild growth. We're going to wind up using gouache, probably a little bit of vermilion, and maybe some black gouache for the swan, just to help the swan just really pop out. Getting that overgrown grass. I feel like that piece was a little too thick. And grabbing the number 4, I'm going to make the bold move of adding in a big tree trunk. Cat said, no, don't do it. Should I take the cat's advice? If we come from right here, kind of shaking it to give that natural, organic look to it. Let the tree sit in place. It's going to cast its shadow. It's also going to have its reflection down here. Dry brushing. Yeah, I think I'm liking it. Secondary tree. Let's shoot that up right there. Needs a little more pizzazz. Some vines crawling up around it. And I can take that darker mix, bring some foreground brush and texture. Let me pause for a dry off and we'll see how everything's coming together. So I'm pretty happy with how it's coming out. However, during that drying, I was just thinking about the Swan location, and I was thinking here or here. Now, with that being said, placing the Swan over it, I'm going to want the area a little bit darker so that the white Swan pops out against it. So I'm going to darken this up some. Let me know in the comments, where would you have put the Swan? Would you have put it on the left, number 1, or number 2 on the right? I feel like, this is just me thinking, number 1 on the left would happen a little too soon in the picture. Trying to build up detail and depth there. Let my lightest light happen next to the darkest dark. So I will have to do another dry off, but before I do that, I could throw a few more branches and twigs in. If you really wanted to push things, you can grab some black wash, throw that in those spots, but I think I'll refrain. I will use the black wash on the duck on his, sorry, on the Swan on the, I think the very tip of the beak. All right, let me dry this and we'll get our gouache ready. All right, so with the Swan, I have some various pictures on Google up, and I'm looking at it, and I had mentioned white, black, and a little bit of vermilion near the beak, or for the beak. That's what I'll go with. So I'm just putting white and black out. I have a little bit of vermilion out on the gouache palette. Okay. Grabbing our white gouache. We're looking in this location here. Here's the center of the painting. I'm going to push him over, push her over. Right here. So the body will come up, and that tail flicks up, the little tail feathers. Then that neck comes forward, up, and out. Long swan neck. I'm going to bring down the white reflections. Might adjust the body accordingly. The height to tail looks about right. Now, one thing that I struggled with like a duck or something like this, or a swan, when we're putting in the white gouache, it does pop against the background like I want it to, but then I think about the shadow portions of the swan and how I should go about doing it. Do I mix my black with the white to make a gray for the shadow? Do I vary my densities of this pigment and let the underlying paint create the shadow? Those are all parts of the dilemma. Now, I have a separate palette for the gouache because I do not want it to really mix with my watercolors in the palette. That chalkiness is very pervasive and will take over everything. Okay, that's the tip of the beak where it hits the face, the head. Then we'll try to reconstitute our vermilion. Right there. Throw a little bit of the black for the edge of the body. So making the executive decision. Sorry, I'm not really talking, I'm just kind of thinking. Oh. Let me there, fix that. Okay, let me do a dry off and I will do an overall look. All right, I think I'm gonna stop this one here. I might do a little bit of fiddling off camera. I might come back to this motif. Probably will. It's a really fun one. I almost started writing motif. Wow, it's a long day. But let's see how it looks underneath a mat. pick it up. Zoom out. There we go. Well, I hope you all enjoyed, and I will talk to you all soon. Please like, subscribe, follow, and please consider supporting this channel on Patreon. Have a great day.